Well, good evening, America. What it do, what it do. I am your co-host, Wendy Renee Torres, and I'm so excited to be with you on this April 13th, 2021 for the Mentor Mentee podcast. Here we go. Hey Emil, how are you doing?
Hey y'all. Happy Tuesday. I'm gonna bring the energy in because I know Wendy is going through it right now, and it's okay. She deserves it. She's okay. But y'all, we about to have a great episode. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Mentor Mentee podcast. Yes, fantasy. Oh Lord, cancel culture. Let's have the conversation. It's an
Yes.
exciting one. It's gonna be one that we both get to talk about our expertise a little bit, which is that's very exciting for me when that gets to happen. But first things first, as always, can we get into a check-in? Miss Wendy, how you doing?
Listen, there's one thing I say about life. If anything's wrong, I did it. Like my life is so good right now. I'm just really blessed. But I just need to say that with society and everything, like I'm struggling. I'm struggling just like all my brothers and sisters are. If you are a mom, if you are a wife, if you are anybody in the Black community in the United States, I don't understand how you could not be tired. I'm tired. I'm tired of watching the death of George Floyd over and over again and the videotapes. And yes, I watch the trial every single day because I'm not about to be fooled when the verdict comes in. I want to know everything that's happening. And then on top of that, here we go with another death of one of our beautiful Black men. And it's always after the fact we want to talk about all of the pieces. I just am tired, but I'm here, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. But I don't speak for myself in my weariness, but we can't be weary in well doing. We have to keep moving forward. But there's something that has to be said about the fact that you about hold on. Yeah. There has to be something to be said about trauma. So like it's one thing when you go through a trauma and you have the opportunity to recover from it. But we as a people never get an opportunity to recover because one thing happens, and while you're trying to wrap your mind around that one thing, something else happened, and then another and another. And that's it, and it's psychologically traumatizing, and it could be paralyzing. So let me say this before we get started in my check-in. If you are a part of the diaspora experience and you are from the African diaspora and you are here in the United States of America through the lineage of slaves in the United States, and that is your experience, and this is what you're living, my hat's off to you because you should not even exist. We should have died a long time ago with everything that we've been through, but we have persevered. And so, keep persevering, keep your head up, keep being amazing. I've just been jamming in our pre-show the last 40 minutes to R&B music because that's my era, because I had to keep my spirit up. And so to you, my brothers, my sisters, keep your head up, and as Tupac would say. How are you, Emil?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I hear everything you said. I appreciate you sharing all that. I do think about, and I wanted to say this earlier on the pregame, um, but I have been thinking about how on the evening that Dewan Wright was murdered, that night I slept and had nightmares of all of the 2012 the nights when everything was being burnt, the nights when we were like late. It was weird. It was just I hadn't had that dream in a very long time. But I had that dream that night, and then I woke up to another brother being murdered, and it really shook me, because it was a moment of like, am I still dreaming? Am I still in this? How? And then what it was. I just have to say, like, the situation and what it was. Um, I take my hats off to everyone. I use the name king and queen because to be able to live through this, we are all kings and queens.
Hmm.
And we just need to be remembered of our royalty when those who do not remember. And we need to be reminded of our worth when those don't remind us. And we need to know that we are loved and cared for and worshiped and cherished in our own community. And thank God for the Mentor Mentee podcast that it allows us to do that for ourselves and for each other.
Yeah.
So y'all, that's how I'm doing. It has been a heavy week. I do have a question, Wendy. It was a busy day for me, so I didn't get to watch the trial today. Did the prosecution rest their case?
Yeah, so the prosecution, so they rested yesterday with George Floyd's younger brother.
Okay.
And I apologize, you all. I'm not a person of names, so Nate always has to come back and fix that for me. I would need to like write stuff down, and I don't. There's nothing in front of me. So anyway, so the prosecution rested yesterday, and so the defense spent a good part of the morning trying to get some motions in. They really, really, really are concerned about the atmosphere in the area right now that's going to taint the jury. And so, I really didn't like this judge until now. I just was, like trying to feel where he was at, but there was a lot, he didn't let their emotions, they didn't go over. So, they'll get a good start on their defense. Basically, it's just been really despicable because they're pretty much trying to paint his death on his drug use. It's kind of funny how if you're not Black, opioid use is a disease, but if you're Black, then you're a criminal.
I hear that. Hey, Jennifer. Happy
So
Tuesday,
y'all can know how today's episode is about to go.
Okay. So let's just get straight into the episode. We'll see where we go, y'all.
All right.
I'm just gonna warn you now. Don't make Wendy ask you to participate. I'm just gonna give you the warning because you know it's gonna come. So now that you have it, don't say I didn't warn you. I'm just being nice. Today's topic is cancel culture. And
okay, cancel culture, go.
Cancel culture. And this is what I would consider a modern term, right? Something post 2010, and beyond that. We pretty much all know, but the definition we'll go by is basically this is a world where everybody just wants to cancel each other out, which means you do something that is not popular. It's a mistake you may have made. And you might have just broken the law and really done something terrible. It's not that, some don't do terrible things. Some people absolutely do terrible things.
They do.
But that the culture then cancels you out.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're canceled out, that's, it to me, I also think of it like as the new blacklist. Like, we're not blacklisting you anymore. We're just putting you on the cancel culture list.
Okay. McCarthyism. I like it.
Right. So that's pretty much where we're at. Which I would say it's ironic. I just gave you I just gave you that connection of those two words because every time I think about Monique, I only think about how she is blacklisted, whereas I think about white counterparts who have been canceled by the culture.
Yes. Okay, so cancel culture. So you're right. There are those people that we as a people have identified. And you guys are in trouble. You're not in trouble today, but I want you to go ahead and put in the comments who is canceled. Like, who can't come to the cookout? I will start. Stacey Dash. No.
No. Hell no. Hell no.
Girl from the Georgia gang.
From the Georgia gang. Okay.
Yeah.
What's that white girl's name who was lying to the NAACP that she was Black? Canceled.
Right. Her canceled.
She's not allowed in. Definitely not allowed in.
Simone something. I think it's Simone's last name.
I choose not to remember your name.
Candace
Owens. Canceled.
Canceled.
No, and her brother or her husband, all of them. They are the threesome sleeping together. They can all be canceled.
Right.
That's all I got. who you want to cancel. I really don't.
You're right. That's it.
Yeah, I don't believe in the cancel culture, but there are people who are not invited to the cookout.
But there are people that have gotten canceled that shouldn't have been. Now I'm gonna go in a direction, and you got to stir this back. I get very aggravated with the Democratic Party because they allow society to cancel them too fast. Like like the senator that had the accusations of saying something sexually inappropriate. I can't even think of his name. He was an actor, and then he resigned.
Yeah, and what about the rep, the female rep last year who had the sex scandal that she cheated with on her husband? How many men have cheated on their wives and kept their jobs, and yet she got canceled?
So the Democratic Party, we just are too. I need us not to be so soft, right? Listen, I know that we have liberals in our party, and I'm not liberal. I am more of a moderate. And if you listen to a lot of African Americans, especially African Americans in any religious group, they're not going to be very liberal. We are moderates, but we are also Democrats. We don't need to be so fast to just give in, especially if anything we can learn. And there's not much to be learned by Donald Trump.
Fantasy, your answer is you just ask for that invite. I'll send it right over. You can join in.
Yes, come on in at any time. There is not much to be gleaned from Donald Trump, but if you learn anything from him, it is to never say die. It's never give up. Because he did not relent to anything. Now you don't want to be given over to a reprobate mind where you don't, repent for anything. You never apologize. But I think that Democrats apologize too quickly and too softly to everything. They allowed themselves to get canceled so much.
They canceled themselves.
So which leads me to the topic we're going to talk about today. They allowed themselves to get canceled. Where were the Democrats in the House of Representatives in the state of Georgia, the state house, when these bills were being written in the first place? Why in the heck the first time we heard about all these bills was when on the day they were being voted on? I can't comprehend that. You allowed your own power to be what? Canceled. I can't do anything about something I don't know about. Your job is to inform us as citizens. All right. Go on with your definition of cancel culture.
Well, Jennifer has a question for us. Mm-hmm. What would you guys say are grounds to cancel somebody?
Email.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So grounds to cancel somebody. Can we just throw out the obvious racism, homophobia? We'll just take down that list, right? I also think someone who chooses not to listen, someone who actively chooses not to listen to others, cancel them out, right? Reason being, there's no reason to have a conversation with someone who's not going to listen to you. It's just detrimental to you to have that type of energy in your space. What you got, Wendy? That's my...
So for someone to be canceled, like we're done with them, like I'm talking about evidence upon evidence upon evidence that this person is a detriment to society and specifically to your community, right? So they need to be canceled for you. So if you're a woman and you want to argue with me about R. Kelly, I'm gonna leave that alone. If you are an African American,
I had so many thoughts when you said it. I had so many thoughts, and I was like, if I say anything, I'm gonna be canceled. So I'm just gonna shut up.
I'm not talking about whether or not you can listen to his music or any of that. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about insurmountable evidence. If you are an African American and can I give you an example of a person that says, thank you, Pastor Hammond, for tuning in, because you gave me, just seeing your name made me think. I'll give you a prime example of cancel.
Okay.
Alveda King and Paula White, period. If you're somebody that's going to use their status and connection to someone else to manipulate society and advance themselves in a counteract to their own community, that's cancellation. So I'll give you, and I'll say why I said that. Alveda King, if you didn't know, is the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, and she uses her status for that in a counter move against the Black community. She is constantly talking coonery. I said it, and I said it in public. She is constantly saying things that are counterproductive to the Black community to appease a specific sect, SECT, of white supremacy to advance herself. And then Paula White, who was the wife of a pastor, and they got divorced. And when the evangelicals cut her off because they don't believe in divorce, the Black community embraced her. And then you found an opportunity to advance yourself by connecting yourself to Donald Trump. You are canceled by the Black community. You can't come back over here. You cannot come to the cookout. Those are my answers. So those are my examples of cancel culture. What are you guys' examples of cancel culture out there? I know where cancel culture is going right now, but those are people that, for me, and when I say they're canceled, there's nothing that that person can say outside of I repent, I am sorry, I made a mistake that's going to make me listen to them. So in other words, their platform no longer means anything to me unless they acknowledge they're wrong. So I'm not saying you can't listen to R. Kelly's music. I'm saying if R. Kelly does not acknowledge the treatment of women in what he was doing, there's an issue. Mm-hmm. If Paula White ever thinks she can come back across, she came across the railroad tracks when they left her, and then that's what you did. You can't come back over here. Stacey Dash, same way, and Candace Owens, she can kick rocks.
Kick rocks, please kick rocks.
Okay. So for me, all right. So now for cancel culture. Now, for right now, I know that you have your own ideas about the concept of cancel culture. I also have there is a very specific thing that has been happening, a phenomenon that happened in the Trump era of the administration. So before Trump came into office, there was a shift in society that was very embracive of true history, like looking at historical components of American society and trying to deal with racial issues. Racial reconciliation cannot come without acknowledgement. You are not, and that's the issue that I have with evangelicals. Dang. God. God, dog. God, dog.
Can I?
We're sorry, y'all. Just put it up in Mill. Just put.
Oh man.
So listen, and the word hoe, in its truest sense, means whoremonger. That is a person that will prostitute themselves for betterment and for financial gain. And so what the pastor meant was that this person who calls himself a spiritual leader has prostituted their gift, their person, and their personality for an advancement in a kingdom that is unholy. I tried to fix that for you. But basically he said she was hoe. Now what he said.
I like that. It's crystal clear. You know, that's very clear. I understand what that is.
Oh, he said, and she prostituted the Black church.
Yes, I like that too. Period on period.
So for those of you that are listening later that cannot see our facial expressions, you could just imagine.
Or just go to the video and see
right.
what we saw.
Let's see what did Jennifer say. Okay.
Okay, I feel like people that I could forgive and not cancel is people that their actions aren't a detriment to me or anyone else. Army Hammer has
Um,
something.
mhm.
Hammer has
Sure.
something going on that deals with the treatment of women, but they are consenting women. So similarly, I ask, is this just none of my business, or does he need to be canceled?
I mean, I think you make a good point. Before we cancel a person, can we see their intent? Like, what's the intentions here? Do we allow people to make a mistake? Like, can a person? Okay, so that's one component. Let's stay there for a second. That's a good point, Jennifer.
Right there.
Can a person make a mistake and not be canceled? Right? Because listen, I have made some mistakes in my life. I have made mistakes as a mother, and I have made made mistakes in the area of sisterdom, as being a woman. And for some people, the mistakes that I have made would probably have me canceled. But the fact that I have spent the last 3 or 4 years in a place of repentance and trying to fix that, am I canceled or am I redeemed?
Mm.
Am I,
Well,
so go ahead.
Well, I think the thing about cancel culture that's so messed up right now is that people do one thing, and here's who I'm going to bring in. I'm going to bring in Kevin Hart into this because I think Kevin Hart is someone who
Fantasy said, I'm glad I like how you cleaned that up, Wendy. I just thought he meant she was a hoe.
Fantasy, I took it the same way. She did. He meant it. We all meant it. We had he said it exactly how he wanted us to understand it. Okay.
He did.
He did. And Wendy was just trying to be nice.
I did.
And he's gonna keep going. So I'm just gonna make my point because he's gonna keep going.
Go ahead.
Which is to say that all I want to say is that it is we find something out about a celebrity, an individual, and then we immediately, because we don't like the thing right now, we're throwing it immediately into cancel culture. So we're canceling the person. Mm-hmm. However, what we aren't doing is the investigation of their past. Is this something that they have been doing in a cycle? Is this not a one-off, but something of the character? And for me, when it becomes something of the character, then at that point, if that's not with your character, then you cancel them out. I'm personally a blocker, but you could just you do have control of your Instagram and your Facebook, no matter the algorithm. You can always block somebody you don't need or want to see ever again. So I just want to throw that into the space when we talk about cancel culture.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I'm gonna segue us back into it. Because what I want to talk about, which is going to be a big topic, and I know we're not going to cover it. I want to talk about the arts and cancel culture.
So before we go there, let me bring up where the cancel culture, oh gosh, it started. So like you have, because I believe the arts is the counter cancel, right? So if we're playing, right, okay, there we go.
It's the attempt.
So one group is playing chess and the other group is playing checkers.
Yes.
Okay, so in the chess game, evangelicals, the conservative, the religious right, Republicans, not all Republicans, I don't mean to offend anyone, but if a hit dog, my granddaddy would say, if a hit dog holler, then it is what it is. A scalded dog will run. That means you got burned.
So country.
So you had white society in the Trump era, as I was saying, that started countering where society was moving. So you had the 1619 Project, this huge movement of teaching how slavery actually affected society, not just Africans, enslaved Africans, moving from this term of even calling people slaves, but enslaved Africans, right? Because that's a difference. I'm not a slave. I'm a person that you enslaved. And teaching all of these things about the detriment and the effects of slavery that history books do not say. I need you all to understand there are textbooks, Princeton, I said it, that talk about slaves that enjoyed their servitude, the hell. But they never talk about insurrections or all of the millions of times that Africans revolted. They paint us in a very subservient place. Mm-hmm. And the 1619 Project was this huge movement against that. And the Trump administration came out against it. I know educators that have lost their jobs and have been admonished not to even speak about the 1619 Project. That is cancel culture. When you have educators that have written books about something called critical race theory, which is what the 1619 Project is about how society has been racist and how you have one group that has benefited white privilege at the degradation of all other minorities. And then you have this narrative that is taught from the conservative right that is, they said it was child abuse. Do you hear what I'm saying? They put y'all help me, I can't think of her name anymore, the Secretary of State under Trump, they called it child abuse in the educational system to speak on these things. So that's where when I come from, when I talk about cancel culture, that is the narrative I'm coming from, where when you try to rise up, when you try to raise yourself up out of an oppressive state, that the oppressor creates a narrative that cancels out your voice. So here we are in the state of Georgia with all of these bills that are Jim Crow-ish. They are Jim Crow 2.0. Let me say this very clearly. When you require me to have a state ID to vote, that is a poll tax, because you are requiring me to purchase a state-funded, a state identification. I can only get that at the DMV. I can't get that anywhere else. Mm-hmm. I have to pay the state. I don't care that it's $25. I don't care that it's $18. My 78-year-old women that I serve at the church that I serve, and the 80-something-year-old women that still vote and live in nursing homes can't go get a state ID. Where the hell are they gonna get their birth certificate from and their social security card, if they even have those documents anymore? Hello, to go get that state ID. That is a poll tax. That is Jim Crow. That is you putting things in place to disenfranchise minority voters. And when you do that, and I speak out against it as a faith leader, and then you say that I am giving a false narrative, that it is not true, that is cancel culture. So whenever I speak against anything you say that I'm being divisive. When you even bring up the word race, if you are the group that has benefited from the racial degradation, the oppression, and the economic oppression of others, and when those people that have been oppressed, I don't care if it was by you, by your ancestors, by your great grandmama, your auntie, sis, and Mr. John. And when those people raise their voice and you say that they are race baiting, that is cancel culture, because you make people afraid to talk. So that is my narrative of where cancel culture is coming from, and that's what is being put out there. Now, I know you have a different narrative, so I'm going to let you speak to that. Now.
Okay. All right. Here's
it's
where
the mentor mentee
podcast. Right. I got it. Yes. Mm-hmm. There. I got you. You're right there. So here's where I come from. I come from the theater background, which I was talking about this a lot last week. But it just stayed in my spirit. So I'm going to continue to talk about it, which is I have this deep rooted feeling, and I have seen it time and time again, that the arts community is very quick and very fast and very proactive when it comes to jumping onto a social justice cause, which is a beautiful thing in its own, to have an industry that is so quick to jump in as a support system to a cause that will better the minority, or whatever is really not the minority, but whatever is not the injustice of the system at the time that is being talked about. With that being said, the way in which we often do that is by moving our work from one location to another, which is really just taking money out of pockets from one state line to the next state line. I was talking in the pregame about this new Georgia voting law. As Wendy talked about, it is a voting law that has Jim Crow language written into it, as well as it does have this poll tax. In that, Georgia activists / organizers have called upon large companies in Georgia to protest in some form, to raise awareness, to do something to get this law, to remove this law from being permanent. And so we've lost 2 large events. The MLB baseball, SunTrust Park, which is less than 5 years old and is still in development. If you come down here, it is not done. They're still building buildings literally across the street from the park. So, you know, it's a huge economic melting pot right now. This July, they were supposed to host the All-Star Games and the draft. They moved that because some players had a problem with doing it in Georgia. That was how some players protested. These are all facts right now. This is not my opinion, so don't take my tone as opinion. Take it for facts. Some baseball players said they didn't want to play, so they said they wouldn't play, so they asked MLB to move. And as a whole, right, the whole unit said we're going to not play in Georgia, even though they were scheduled to honor what's his name, Hank Arnold, Aaron. Thank you, Hank Aaron.
I did know that name.
There you go. Thank you. Hank Aaron, who is the legendary Braves baseball player, who broke the record from what's his name? The other base. I'm not a
Babe Ruth.
There we go. He broke Babe Ruth's.
I know my history.
The Babe Ruth home run record.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were supposed to honor him in his city, in his state, and no longer happening. It is now moved to Denver. The second thing that happened that this week, Will Smith and Apple announced that they will be moving the movie of Emancipation, which I already have a problem with us making more slave movies and bringing more trauma into our community. Will Smith damn sure knows we don't need another slave play. I definitely don't need to see the Fresh Prince turn into a slave. So if he has any ideas of playing a slave, he could just go. But let me not segue. They said that they are no longer shooting in Georgia. They have moved the movie to Louisiana. Now we have lost 2 major events. Baseball, which would have hired and kept hundreds upon hundreds of employees working for the All-Star Game. They would have had to hire more people in because they are not at full capacity. But for the All-Star Games, they would have to bring more people in because they're expected to be at full. And if you don't know, Georgia is 100% open. COVID doesn't exist here anymore.
What
and
COVID?
So, right. What COVID? What vaccine? J&J.
We've been open.
But so all of those dollars are gone in July. A movie, a Hollywood movie that I'm pretty sure would have had something to do with Tyler Perry Studios, right? Which is funding and employing hundreds upon hundreds of extra actors, of minorities, of technicians, of film crew, right? All of those people, I'm pretty sure they would have had a job in the Emancipation. If not, all of the natural hired team that would have been there is no longer there. Now, here's the thing. I understand, and now this is me. I'm just going to say it. I understand because it's a slave movie that going from Georgia to Louisiana doesn't make a difference in that you're just going to hire black people in Louisiana from black people in Georgia. I get that. And yes, I'm happy that no matter what, the black dollar, the money is going to the black man, into the black community. However, it is not worth it when you are making movies about our trauma, our ancestral trauma, as we are trying to get over this trauma. And 2, it is not worth it when what you're doing is simply taking money from one industry into another. And so that doesn't actually help the cause. And so I often feel like the art community as a whole, and its search and its push and its endless cause to be just and to be right and to be there always and saying, yes, we will fight the cause with you, we also always stab ourselves in the back, and we always take money out of our own pockets. And that, to me,
but are they really taking money out of their pockets?
Whose pockets? Will Smith ain't losing no money.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. Like, to me, it doesn't matter. I'm not even talking about the producers.
You're talking about local dollars.
I'm talking about I'm talking about the bottom line. I'm talking about that extra that's going to get that $125 because he's going to be an extra for a whole week, and that's going to pay 2 of his bills for the month. I'm talking about the film man that's going to have another job for the next 6 weeks because he just got picked up to be a PA. I'm talking about the gaffer who's just going to tape the street so that Will Smith doesn't trip over, and he's going to have $1,000 check for doing that. Film pays a lot of money to do nothing. Okay, I'm not a film person for this reason, but there are roles in film where people do the most minute thing and make so much bank. I respect the hustle. What I'm saying is, why are we taking it from one to another when the truth of the matter is you're not hurting those who really care? No one in the House of Representatives is going to care about a slave movie in 2021. Let's just keep it real.
So here's my thoughts. Put up Jennifer's last comment. Tax dollars the state would have made. So here's one thing that I want to add to what you said. In the bus boycott in the early 1960s, it was expensive for Blacks in Montgomery to walk to work, to carpool, to get to work without riding the bus. The bus was 5 cents, 15 cents. It was very expensive. Boycotting stores that refused to allow them to walk in the front door was expensive. It was a hardship on them. There were things that they missed out on. So that is why. So right now, I've been in a couple of conversations in a couple of different activist groups about the difference between protests and boycotts. Boycotts hurt. Mm-hmm. They hurt financially, and you have to understand they don't just hurt those that you're trying to hurt. You're trying to hurt someone financially on purpose.
Yes.
And you also take a hit. In other words, a boycott is a personal sacrifice. So we as a people, African Americans, who I tried to look up the 2020 stats are not out yet. But in 2019, we were $1.7 trillion in GDP. If we were a nation, we would be the 10th largest nation in the entire world in GDP. That means in spending power. The reason why companies like Ben & Jerry's, Coca-Cola, AT&T, and Delta, and other companies, Dove, have come out and say Black Lives Matter and actually pay attention to some of our issues is because they understand that we not only are an economic powerhouse, but we are coming into the knowledge of that. That is the revolution that is happening in this moment, our economic revolution. We are realizing that we move the seafood industry. All y'all crab legs and shrimp nights at Juicy Crab, the world realizes that you run that industry. Hey, Russell. Oh, it's so good to see you, Russell. How are you? We run that industry. We actually spend the most, it's going to sound really silly, we spend the most money in bottled water. And guess what other industry we move the most? The needle in alcohol, like what is popular, and shoes. That makes sense. But also in hair care. Those are 3 industries that those industries know we are the ones that move them. So when we move, they should move just like that. So I'm not negating anything that you just said. You're right.
Mhm.
That when Will Smith moved out of the state of Georgia, you're right. All of the thousands of minority businesses that would have made money, food trucks, Ubers, food industries, all of the
We have a
different.
studio.
Mhm.
I'm not a huge TP fan, right? But the man and his business, I have the ultimate respect.
Mhm.
It's Hollywood and it's Atlanta. It's Hollywood
Right.
and it's Atlanta.
So
We can no longer just jump ship when we have a studio.
so let me finish what I'm saying, and then I think I hear what you're saying. So we have to, so like, if you want to win the war, there are some battles you have to be prepared to take a loss or L in, right?
Mhm.
So if the MLB leaves and that's money lost, the state as a whole, Jennifer spoke to that, has to take that hit.
Yes.
With Will Smith leaving, if others follow suit, it has to be a lot of them for the state to feel the pinch and they take that L. Yes, local people take the L. What you're saying, that you might be saying, it might have been more powerful for them to come and film here and on purpose only use Black-owned businesses, which can be powerful, but in the end, Georgia still gets those tax dollars. That's why I wanted you to leave Jennifer's point up. So we have to ask ourselves a question, because I'm not negating what you're saying.
Mhm.
We have to ask ourselves a question. Do we want them to feel the pressure? Because we were the ones that put pressure on Fortune 500 companies to have something to say. Well, they can say something, but talk is cheap. The way that they show you is by pulling out. And when they pull out, you have to realize that does not just affect the bottom line of the Georgia government, it will affect all of their employees.
I hear all of that. And in response, what I want to say is, how is it? Why is it? Look at it again. That is the two main industries that did not function at all last year. Sports was gone last year. Arts was gone last year. And yet here we are again saying we're going to be first. We're going to be right there. We're going to lead the way. And we're hurting an industry that truly cannot afford that hurt anymore. Coca-Cola can't afford it. Everyone drank Coke last year. Coca-Cola can't afford it. Delta, people were still flying all across the world last year. Delta can't afford it. Those industries did not close down completely, but sports did. Theater, film, TV, we did close down. We all had a true shutdown. We had a true halt, and we have to bring that into acknowledgement. I guess the other thing that I'm trying to say is we can't move the way we moved pre-COVID. You can't boycott the way you boycotted pre-COVID. We got to recover first. If we're not going to recover, then how do you expect there to be an industry when you come? Again, Georgia has a studio now, a studio bigger than Hollywood, a studio that has more landmarks of its nation, of its world, than its motherland of Hollywood that really birthed the film industry.
So you're saying the Tyler Perry Studios is bigger than like MGM or those other studios that are in Hollywood?
I mean, yeah, not financially, but he is absolutely in terms of acreage.
Right. I just need to be. We just want to be clear for the people, right?
But yeah, clear for the people.
Okay. So and those are good points, and so that's why voices are important, right? So you need to say to companies, so make a point. Okay, we're going to come into Georgia, but we will only shop with those that you marginalize, or us in Georgia. If we want to put pressure on companies, then we have to be prepared for them to respond. I think Tony says spending power will only benefit those who control the resource and the means of production. And that's true. So that is why we have to put pressure on them. We understand that we drive Nike.
Right.
We do.
Mhm.
We absolutely do. We drive certain alcohol brands. We do. We absolutely do. And which is the stupidest and craziest thing, y'all. But if you don't believe me, go look. You can look it up for yourself. The State of the Black America, 2019. We drive the seafood industry, y'all. That's almost embarrassing to me.
Can I throw another idea out there?
Hmm.
I know at one point, especially on major Hollywood film productions, major companies would pay top dollar to have their brand shown in the hands of a superstar. For
Hmm.
example, they will pay top dollar. Coca-Cola will pay top dollar to have Will Smith just walk around with a 12. He has to go from the end of the block to his apartment building and go in, and he has groceries. Coca-Cola will pay top dollar to make sure that there's a 12 pack of Coke that is filmed and seen in Will Smith's hand.
Right.
You don't have to leave the state. You just got to tell Coca-Cola that you're not getting your sponsorship unless you do something about Georgia. And then we don't have to be hurt.
I think that those are excellent points.
But I'm
And
not
so
that
that
man.
is
I know. I'm just complaining because I'm not that man.
no, you're a guy with a podcast, so you clearly have a voice. You have to make your voice heard. Who am I? But the penner of the letter that was written to Kelly Loeffler.
Come on.
Who am I? Nobody. Right? We just wrote a letter. We just signed a letter. That's all we did.
I'm just thinking.
I mean, like I was one of. I want to say I am the one. I was not. There's hundreds of people that were a part of that. But
Okay, I got another idea. I know this is crazy. Sorry, but here's another idea.
You go ahead.
I found out a couple of months ago that about 40 or 50 families came together and bought a large chunk of land in South Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to film a slave movie, you're probably going to South Georgia where it still looks like slavery times.
They're being locked on you, but it's okay. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Okay, they will be. But you should be down there. Why don't you get your hands on that group and put your money into that so that they can continue to build that city that they're trying to build for your people?
I think those are great points. I think that you're making some excellent points. I
hear it's not the argument because it's the truth. I hear the statement that our buying power, right? Our buying power is really a high value, is very important, and it can really shift the spectrum.
It does, but and the other part of that is this. So there's a couple of components. We want major industries. We want to hold industries accountable because we drive them.
Right.
Tony is right. We can't. We don't have the factors of production to make those things. And we don't support them, right? When Black people come out with shoes and stuff, we say, "What are those?" We don't wear those. So you're right with that component, unless it's Lil Nas X shoe. But anyway, all right. So that we have that, but the other part of that is we hold our celebrities to a standard. When things happen, we say, where are the NBA players? Where are the NFL stars? Where are our millionaires and billionaires? Why are they not speaking out about these issues? Where are they? Remember, we said that. Mm-hmm. Where are you in these issues? Mm-hmm. So we gotta give, even as much as it hurt us financially. I feel I'm just Wendy,
who has a podcast.
We need to give Will Smith and his producer that much respect, because when we said, "Where are you?" he just showed us where he is. When the African American members of the NLB spoke out, they showed us where they are. When the NBA refused to play last night, they showed us where when they did all they did about Black Lives Matter and putting it on their, like, they're trying to. We are in a very weird place. We're in a shifting place. Right, where we have demanded things of people, and the people are trying to respond. So as we give grace, we also have to know their sacrifice. And you're right, there's money that we lost, but in the end, let's make it worth it.
How do we do that? Because I don't. Because is Will
That's a
Smith
good
coming
question.
down to walk with us to the Capitol and say something?
I think
Are the MLB players coming down to Georgia to walk to the Capitol with us to say something?
those are good points. You might not get Will Smith, but you might be able to get a couple of local celebrities and or athletes. I think that they spoke with their pockets. I think that that was a good point. Remember when they were told to shut up and play, shut up and dribble. This is what this was their way of saying. This was their reaction to that. I understand that it hurts, and you gave an excellent counter or a solution to that concept. I don't have an answer. I'm just saying I don't. But my point is this: that protest is sacrifice in your body, right? You've done it hundreds of times. How many times have I stayed up in the middle of the night worried about you, your sister, and your brother because you were in the street protesting and that was your life on the line?
Mm-hmm.
You put your life on the line. Boycott is a different type of sacrifice. It is a financial sacrifice. Please understand, when you call for a boycott, you are you are saying, I am willing to make a financial sacrifice.
Yeah. And let me just say, I do want to acknowledge that if you are at the, let me acknowledge that Will Smith has lost money. I said he probably didn't earlier, but let me acknowledge he probably has, because if you are already set to be filming somewhere, you have already put some deposits down that you have lost. So I get that. But what I am saying, which I will continue to say, is when life-changing events happen to us and to the world, you have to shift in the way that you do the things that you used to do. COVID changed our lives. If we choose to ignore that, if we choose to act like times are different, then we are simply just being ignorant and waiting for the next cycle to come and take us out. We have to evolve. And my idea of evolution is that even though we are still in these cycles of Black men being killed over and over, and governments creating laws that are taking our freedoms away from us and putting taxes upon our freedoms, there are other ways about it. Now that we have the intelligence to know, there are other ways to hit them with the same dollar bill.
And with that being said, it's been 10 minutes since I've heard anything from anybody in the audience. I need to know where you are and what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts? Emil just gave us a whole concept that protests and boycotts must evolve. What are your thoughts about this evolution of a boycott or protest? Did you really think we were going to close out the show and I wasn't going to hear from you? What y'all think this is?
I warned y'all in the beginning.
I need to know, what's the answer? Because that's you made a good point. There is an answer, right? I mean, there might not be a good happy medium, but there are answers.
Can I say this as everyone tries to think about the answers or run back to their keyboards and type something so they don't get in trouble with Wendy?
That's right.
I do want to speak to very specifically to the theater community. So last year, in the middle of COVID, the theater community, amongst many, many, many attempts, which has happened for decades upon decades, they have had more conversations about how they're going to be more inclusive. They have more conversations about how they are going to be more equitable to minority institutions and artists. When the truth of the matter is, they said a lot of stuff, but no theater happened, in which most of that work has yet to be done. And so I just want to recognize that as theater begins to open up, look at y'all all putting comments in. Y'all literally all had to run back to y'all keyboards just to get Wendy. That is so hilarious. As theater prepares for its return, you have to acknowledge that the theater is in the same spot that it was in pre-COVID. It has not done the work yet. Just because time has gone, we have not done the work to actually make the change. And so as much as I miss my industry, I'm not very excited for it to open because I know we haven't done the work. And so there's a lot of work to be done. And I don't know how fast we are going to be able to evolve, because virtual theater was not our evolution. That was how we were trying to hold tight until we can get back. Now that we are back in person, this is where the evolution begins.
So I like what Tony said. So Tony, now because Tony is like, okay, that's you talking about a philosophical dude, like that's this y'all the first. So why is the only option to work within a system designed and sustained by manipulation and oppression? That's a good point. So to your point, our evolution is to create other options.
Correct.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes.
$1.7 trillion in GDP, gross domestic product. That means spending power. African Americans spent $1.7 trillion in 2019. They're still calculating 2020. John Hope Bryant, the chairman for Operation Hope, the largest nonprofit financial literacy organization in the country, said African Americans, let me put it like he said it, Black folks are not poor. We're broke.
We're broke.
Broke meaning poor means you have no resources. Broke means you're not using your resources correctly. So then, Tony, my question then becomes, okay, I hear you. What are our other options? And I'm gonna make somebody angry a whole lot, but I'm gonna say it again. The one thing that I agreed, I didn't read everything. I don't know everything that Ice Cube, O'Shea.
He just said the realest truth.
Okay, let me be quiet. And what did he say?
We don't want freedom. We want equity on the plantation. Which is so true. It's so true. We were fine in our homes. Don't bother us. We were fine having our children, our family. And we never said we had a problem working. Just leave us alone. Leave us alone and let us have our own. You can have your piece. You don't need the whole piece. But that concept of, and really what he's talking about is sharing. America is a land of not wanting to share. We are selfish.
No, they are selfish. That is not our natural culture. Our culture is collectivist. We are not an individualistic people. We come from several different African dynamics that are very collectivist in nature. And so I'm not moving from what Tony said, but just to what you said. What that means when we wake up in the morning, we think about who are we as a tribe and as a culture of people, and then how do I affect my tribe, and then how do I affect my family, and then how do I affect me? We were pushed into a culture that thinks about self first. And self-preservation and self-determination and competition. We are not a competitive people. That's why we keep losing at this game. It's not that we're not smart, and it's not that we're not intelligent, nor are not only do we have mental intellect, we have a physical intellect that is greater. But we let another group of people tell us that a certain type of intellect is greater. So then that's a whole nother question, Tony. Well, what is real freedom? Yeah, you're right.
I agree with this all the way.
We've said that 3 times. You're right.
All the way.
Desegregation was one of our worst things that we ever did.
Yes, we did.
But trying to stick to the topic because we are
they're gonna cancel us out. You okay?
I'm good. And Tony, you have to agree to come on to be a guest one night. That's going to be a crazy night, but you have to agree to come on one day because I really want to. I want to talk
about this topic with Tony. Tony, this is what I want to talk about because I would love to talk about. I'm just going to throw it out there so we can have a conversation. I'm tired of seeing black and white couples and not seeing same race couples on television. Every time I watch TV, I see a black man with a white woman or a white woman with a black man. I don't see a black man with a black woman, and I don't see a black man with a black woman. And it kills me, and I'm tired of seeing it. I'm not saying that you can't have what you want to have. You absolutely can. But when you throw that image over and over and over and over again, and you exclude other images, you manipulate in the community over and over again. And that I don't agree with.
So now we know who our next podcast guest is going to be. So listen, we didn't really we have agreed that we don't know all the answers, right? We don't know all the answers.
Thank you.
But we do know that protests
Thank you,
and
Auntie.
boycotts are different. Both are dangerous. They're both dangerous for different reasons. Protests are physically dangerous. Boycotts are economically dangerous. But if you want true freedom, as our friend Tony has talked about, just know that there's a cost, and you need to count that cost. Oh, it's for our so the comment that came up was socio-cultural conditioning. I forgot we have lots of people that listen to the podcast later, and I apologize. You know, we give dramatic pause so you can see our faces. And like, people gonna be like, "What's happening?"
Yeah, we take it in. We take it
right
in.
now. I'm making a very crazy face, like,
I'm just ready for the episode.
So, listen, cancel culture. Let's not be so quick to cancel people. People make mistakes. People are redeemable. I'm going to say this from a Christian lens. That is the entire premise of our belief system. We are redeemed. We believe that someone died, that we could be redeemed. So how dare you, evangelicals, look at other people and refuse to give them grace, but that's all you want to spend time talking about for yourself, and not acknowledge your fault. The entire concept of Christianity is for a person to have self-reflection on their own faults, not the faults of others. Tony, don't you come in here. I know what you finna, don't do it to me. I'm trying to close this show out. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. I had to say that because he will eat that alive. Listen, so that if that is the concept, self-reflection on how I need to apologize and acknowledge my own faults. How dare you try to cancel someone else unless they refuse to acknowledge their faults? We should always give people the grace to acknowledge themselves. I guess the NLB and the
Will Smith Emancipation. It's a slave movie.
Emancipation felt that the governor's signing of those bills was their refusal to acknowledge the wrong of writing those bills. Emil?
I don't know, man. I could talk about this all day because we're gonna have to, I don't know. Listen, y'all. Happy Tuesday. It was great spending some time with y'all. It really was. You know, every conversation doesn't get to a true trail end. So if you with somebody, continue this conversation. If call someone you haven't talked to for a while, text somebody, ask them what they think. Pay attention because I'm sure there's going to be some other, major events or companies that are going to pull out as well. I doubt that these are the only two, because if these are the only two, I'm actually going to be more frustrated at the tail end of this if these are the only two. Because the other thing is, like, you need many, as Wendy was saying earlier, many upon many to all follow suit and all go in order to really make the impact. So yeah, y'all, this was go ahead, Wendy.
If you are a Black man, if you are a Black father, son, husband, nephew, in any capacity, please know you are loved, adored, respected, and honored by your community. We uplift you, we uphold you, we are fighting for you. If no one told you today, you are loved. My name is Wendy Torres, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Bye.